You skip breakfast, the clock starts ticking, and your body does something surprisingly practical. It runs a quick internal meeting about fuel. At first, it's like, we've got easy energy in circulation, use that. But as the hours pass, the message changes to, stop spending the cash in your wallet, go to the bank. That bank is body fat, and the switch starts flipping earlier than most people think. The switch isn't magic, it's a shift in signals. When food stops coming in, insulin trends down, and your body stops getting the store energy text message. That's the moment fat stops being treated like fragile savings and starts being treated like available money. You're not burning only fat yet, but you're moving toward it fast. And here's the part people miss. Your body doesn't need to decide to burn fat because it's trendy. It does it because it's efficient. You have limited short-term fuel stored for quick use, but you have an enormous long-term fuel tank sitting under your skin and around organs. A 24-hour fast is basically an invitation for your body to start pulling from that long-term tank, step by step. Body fat is stored as triglycerides, 3 fatty acids attached to a glycerol backbone. When the OK use fat signal rises, your fat cells start breaking those triglycerides apart. That breakdown is called lipolysis. It's not the burning yet, it's the release. Think of it like chopping firewood before you light the match. Once the triglycerides split, the fatty acids get released into the blood, and glycerol goes with them. The fatty acids don't float around freely like sugar does. They hitch a ride on a carrier protein called albumin. This is important because it means fat use isn't just about having fat. It's about having a system to mobilize it, carry it, and deliver it to tissues that can spend it. The wild part is how quickly this can start. Lipolysis ramps up as the fasting window grows, especially when insulin is low and stress hormones are balanced. That's why people sometimes feel a subtle, lighter energy later in the fast. What they're feeling is less about willpower and more about logistics. Fuel is finally getting shipped out of storage. Insulin is not the enemy. It's a storage hormone doing its job. It helps move nutrients into cells and signals we're fed. The problem is that when insulin stays high all day, snacking, sugary drinks, constant grazing, your fat cells get the message to keep storing and to stop releasing. Insulin is basically a doorman that closes the exit door on fat. During a fast, insulin falls. That matters because insulin normally suppresses lipolysis, keeping fat locked up. With less insulin around, the brakes come off. Your body becomes far more willing to pull fatty acids out of storage and put them into circulation, where they can be used for energy. This is why 2 people can eat the same calories in a day and have different fat-burning outcomes depending on timing. The fasting window isn't a fat-melting spell. It's a period where the hormonal environment shifts in a way that makes fat release easier. And once fat release is easier, fat burning becomes a real option instead of a last resort. When food isn't coming in, your nervous system doesn't just shrug, it adjusts. One of the key messengers here is norepinephrine, a stress hormone in the helpful, alert sense, especially when it's not chronically elevated. Norepinephrine binds to receptors on fat cells and tells them, open the storage room, we need fuel. Inside the fat cell, that signal triggers a chain reaction that ramps up lipolysis. Enzymes get activated, triglycerides get dismantled, and fatty acids start flowing out. This is one reason people sometimes feel more switched on during a fast rather than sleepy. Your body is literally increasing access to fuel while keeping your brain alert enough to function. But there's a catch. This works best when the signal is clean. If you're running on terrible sleep, constant anxiety, and a chaotic schedule, stress chemistry can get messy and hunger can spike. The goal isn't to be stressed, it's to be mobilized. Later in the video, I'll show you how sleep and timing can decide whether this norepinephrine bump helps you burn fat or just makes you want to raid the fridge. Once fatty acids are in your blood, the next question is simple. Where do they go? Mostly to tissues that can actually spend them, like skeletal muscle and the liver. Delivery depends on blood flow, demand, and your body's current energy needs. If you're sitting still, muscles still use energy in the background. If you move, they call for more fuel, and fatty acids answer. Muscle cells have transport systems that help pull fatty acids inside. The liver also takes in fatty acids and can redirect them into different pathways depending on the fast stage. This is where fasting starts to feel different from just eating less. It's not only a calorie story, it's a fuel routing story. Your body is literally changing what it ships and where it ships it. And quick check-in, have you ever done a 24-hour fast and noticed a moment where hunger suddenly calms down? Drop a comment with what hour that happened for you, early, middle, or late, because that timing often lines up with when fat delivery and usage start to feel more steady. Once fatty acids arrive at a muscle cell, the body still has to do something with them. Using fat isn't a vibe, it's chemistry. The fatty acid has to cross into the cell, get prepared, and then be fed into your mitochondria, the tiny engines that turn fuel into usable energy. This is where fat stops being released and starts being spent. Inside the mitochondria, fatty acids get chopped down in a process called beta-oxidation. Picture a long log being cut into neat little pieces that can fit into a furnace. Those pieces feed into a cascade that produces energy your body can actually use to power everything from your heartbeat to you standing up from a chair. Here's the part that keeps people watching the clock. Beta-oxidation ramps up when fat delivery is steady and insulin is low. But it also depends on demand. The more your body needs energy without quick food coming in, the more it leans on this furnace. That's why later hours of a 24-hour fast often feel different from the early hours. The burn is happening deeper in the system, not just in the bloodstream. Your liver is like the body's fuel refinery. When fatty acids flood in during a fast, the liver can burn some directly, but it also does something clever. It turns part of that fat into ketones. Ketones are basically portable energy, especially useful for the brain when glucose is less available. This is still fat being used, just through a different route. Fatty acids become ketones, ketones circulate, and tissues that love them can pick them up and burn them. Many people notice that once ketones rise, energy feels smoother and cravings feel less dramatic. Not because hunger magically disappears, but because fuel delivery gets more consistent. And if you're thinking, so ketones mean I'm losing fat fast? Hold that thought. Ketones mean you're using fat for fuel, which is a big shift. Actual fat loss depends on the bigger picture across days and weeks. But in a 24-hour fast, ketones are one of the clearest signs that your body is running a more fat-heavy energy plan. Not all fat behaves the same way. Subcutaneous fat is the fat under the skin, the pinchable kind. Visceral fat is deeper, stored around organs. They don't just look different, they respond differently to hormones and to fat mobilizing signals during fasting. Visceral fat tends to be more metabolically active and often more responsive to the signals that promote fat release. That doesn't mean it vanishes overnight, but it does mean the body can be quicker to mobilize it under the right conditions. Subcutaneous fat can be more stubborn, simply because it's built for long-term storage and doesn't always rush to cooperate. This is why two people can do the same 24-hour fast and report different changes. One feels a noticeable shift in bloating and waistline sensations, another feels mostly appetite changes. The body is pulling fuel from different warehouses, and those warehouses don't all open their doors at the same speed. Most fat burning doesn't happen during workouts, it happens while you're alive. Your basal metabolism is the energy cost of simply existing, breathing, thinking, maintaining body temperature. During a fast, a larger share of that energy can come from fat, especially as the hours pass and fat oxidation rises. Then there's heat. Your body spends energy to keep temperature stable, and that energy can come from fat when other fuels are less available. Even small shifts, being in a slightly cooler environment, for example, can push the body to spend more fuel just to stay warm. And the sneakiest one, invisible movement. Posture changes, fidgeting, walking to refill water, pacing during a phone call. It doesn't feel like exercise, but it adds up fast. If you want a simple fat burn amplifier during a fast, it's not some fancy trick. It's stacking small movement moments across the day so your muscles keep requesting fuel. Training while fasted can increase how much fat you burn during the session, especially with steady, moderate activity. Your body is already primed to pull fatty acids into circulation, and movement gives those fatty acids a reason to be used. Done right, it can feel like you're tapping into a clean, stable energy source. But it can backfire if the workout is so intense that your body demands quick fuel and stress shoots up hard. That's when people finish the session feeling shaky, ravenous, and emotionally attached to the nearest snack. The fat-burning win during the workout can get canceled by the hunger rebound afterward. The most common mistake is trying to prove something, going too hard, too early, then earning a chaotic break-the-fast meal. If the goal is fat usage across a full 24 hours, the smarter play is a session that you can recover from calmly so your appetite doesn't hijack the rest of the fast. Nighttime is where a 24-hour fast either feels smooth or turns into a snack-hunting horror movie. Not because fat stops burning at night, but because sleep quality changes the hormonal tone that controls fat release. When you sleep well, your body tends to keep fat mobilization steady, and your appetite signals calmer the next day. When you sleep badly, the body gets jumpy, cravings get louder, and it becomes harder to stay in that fat-fueled lane. Cortisol is the big character here. You need cortisol. It helps you wake up and mobilize energy. But when stress stays high into the evening, cortisol can stay elevated when it should be settling down. That can push hunger up and make you feel wired and fragile at the same time. And when hunger gets aggressive, most people don't break the fast. They bounce out of it with whatever's fastest, usually the kind of food that slams insulin and shuts the fat exit door. If you want the fast to stay about fat, treat the night like strategy, not punishment. Earlier caffeine cutoff, a darker room, cooler temperature, and a wind down that doesn't spike your nervous system. You're not doing that to be zen, you're doing it because the next morning's fat burning is heavily influenced by whether your brain trusts that fuel is available or thinks it's under threat. The fastest way to waste a clean 24-hour fast is to end it like you just won a contest. A huge, high-sugar, high-refined carb meal can create a sharp insulin spike, and your body immediately shifts away from burning fat toward burning what you just ate. That shift is normal. Food is meant to be used, but the problem is the whiplash. Hunger rebounds, cravings get louder, and you're more likely to overeat enough to cancel the fat deficit you created. A fat-smart break is boring in the best way. Start with a normal-sized meal built around protein and fiber with some fat included. Think eggs with vegetables, chicken and salad with olive oil, Greek yogurt with nuts and berries, or a bowl with beans, veggies, and fish. That kind of meal tends to raise insulin more gently, keeps appetite stable, and prevents the bottomless pit feeling that makes people think fasting doesn't work for them. And here's a move that feels too simple to matter, but it does. Eat, then wait. Give your brain 15 to 20 minutes to catch up before you go for seconds. If the goal is fat loss, the win isn't the fast itself, it's ending the fast without turning the rest of the day into a binge loop. Before you go, comment what you find harder, making it to the end of a fast or breaking it without overeating. And if you want more scripts like this, tight, science-based, and practical, like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who's been fasting but not seeing fat loss. This video is for educational purposes only and isn't medical advice. Fasting isn't safe or appropriate for everyone, and individual responses can vary a lot. If you're pregnant, under 18, have a history of eating disorders, or you take medications, especially for diabetes or blood pressure, talk to a qualified healthcare professional before trying a 24-hour fast. If you feel dizzy, faint, confused, or unwell at any point, stop the fast and seek medical help.